Each year, industrial accidents cost the Australian economy over $5,000 million. Almost $200 million is lost in wages through industrial accidents. 5 million working days are lost through injuries in the workplace. Now, these are pretty frightening statistics, but what's most frightening about them is that they're about people. People like you and me, who might lose their wages, their livelihood, even their lives, through industrial accidents.
Most injuries as a result of accidents we see are fairly small and trivial, but there are the more serious ones. In fact, I have been involved in a couple of fatal accidents.
Martin Bechevkis is a doctor who visits factories for the Department of Health Services. He sees dozens of cases of lost fingers and toes, lost eyesight, burns, respiratory problems and death because workers didn't wear correct safety equipment.
A fellow who wasn't wearing a protective helmet on a construction site was killed by a spanner falling on top of him from a great height. So it varies tremendously from mild accidents to serious ones. And the reason for people not wearing the protective equipment is really often a very complex one. The equipment may not be the right one for in the first instance. It may not have been properly maintained. The people who are supposed to wear it may not have had a proper program of instruction in its use.
Industry is full of hazardous machines and working conditions. The nature of the jobs causes the dangers. The very fact that protective equipment is needed is an admission that danger is present. The first step in the safety cycle is to engineer and arrange machines so that protective clothing should not be necessary. But there are limits to planning.
It doesn't just stop there. There are several things that you can give an employee to wear that will protect his being. Safety hats, glasses, gloves, footwear, aprons, and it goes on. Training, all these safety aspects of their machine, the way to do the thing properly.
The idea is to take the problem away from the guy if we possibly can by these design means. We actually provide now an extractor which we buy, and they're hooked to the actual welding nozzle, and as the MIG runs its wire, it sucks the fumes away and therefore takes it away from the immediate area.
So that's your first approach, right, is to engineer out the problem.
That's right.
Now the second approach obviously is the protective apparatus that you issue the workers with.
Firstly, we have to protect the operator, and that's by means of the helmet. That way then he's got a supply of air to him, which keeps the dust out from underneath, from his eyes, away from him, and also provides air to him. Then we take the grit away from the area, which also takes the dust away. The dust then goes through a collector, the big scrubber you saw outside, so we're cleaning the air as we go. You can see that we've got a lot of noise. We're dealing with sand, so we have a tremendous amount of dust around. You can see that many foundries are like ours, where there's everybody's using their hands very close to their work tool. Our case, you can also see that we have a lot of castings which are very heavy, and therefore you can have very severe problems with back strain, for example. I can quite truthfully say that we have not had an incident where someone's hurt his feet, but that's because he's wearing safety boots. And if he has dropped something on his foot, it's just rolled off. It's not crunched his toes.
And certainly if the foot is injured with a heavy object falling on it, if it has a very serious cut inside it, which goes into the deeper structures, the risk is that the foot may become stiff, and instead of all those fine small bones sliding over each other and tendons moving together well, the foot can become stiff. And if that happens, that's a very serious situation. It's much more difficult to run, to walk, in fact, and in some circumstances it can put an abnormal load on the person's spine through an abnormal posture that he may take.
I see the people coming into here asking for another pair of glasses because the pair that they had has been shattered, or a pair of boots that have got the toe cap torn by dropping something on them. And it's only because they were safety footwear or they were safety glasses or it was a safety apron that the actual body injury has been prevented.
There he is. Hello, David. You don't look too bad now, but I understand you did have a pretty bad accident.
Yeah, well, what happened was that I was knocking a piece of steel out of a punch with a hammer. The piece of steel I was using broke, flew up, landed in my left eye, smashed the glasses completely, which caused a splinter to come through and land in the actual eye, which caused me to go to hospital.
You had a splinter of glass land in your eye, but that was a lot better than getting the piece of metal?
Oh yes, if the glasses hadn't have been there, the metal would have either caused the loss of my life or definitely lost the use of one eye.
Where you're by a machine tool, you can see that the man was right over with his workpiece. There are chips of cast iron going everywhere, and it's very necessary that he has goggles. And we've found that it's often very handy to have yet a second face shield in front to stop the build-up of material on his eyebrows.
Oh, really?
And we had a lot of trouble with people getting stuff on their eyebrows, but by putting that second shield, we overcame that problem completely. One could really say in foundries there's a traditional occupational hazard of people who work in them all their lives. They will be fairly deaf by the end of their working career. Nowadays we do insist that the men working the jolt squeeze machines, they're the machines that are going like that all the time, and the men by the machine tools, that they wear the hearing protection, because then we know that they won't have that problem when they're 60 years of age.
Noise-induced hearing loss is the sneaky disease. Exposure to noise over a period of time will produce irreversible deafness. There are some circumstances where exposures to small amounts of noise, even 10 or 20 minutes a day, will cause irreversible hearing loss over a period of time. Now, there are certain warning symptoms that this is developing, say buzzing in the ears, ringing, a temporary deafness which recovers over a period of 24 hours. These are warning signs that something is happening, and if urgent action is not taken, well, this may become permanent.
That's sulfuric acid. It's a 10% concentration, and it's heated by a heat exchanger on the side that brings it up to between 60 and 70 degrees. Well, as you found when you walk past, initially it's, it aggravates. It gets into the throat, up the nose, and you don't like it. After a while, though, its effect is to, almost to make you immune to its smell. It takes you over, and you don't know that you're taking it in.
There are many old wives' tales in industry regarding health and safety, and drinking milk and believing that that will give you some protection against fumes, and especially welding fumes is one of the commonest. Now, there's really no physical or medical basis for this belief at all. And what's even more serious is that some people believe that by drinking milk they have some protection, and that leads them to neglect all the other aspects of health and safety, which are far more important, having a safe system of work and using the right protective equipment. Here's an example of what happens with fumes. That fellow is wearing a flimsy mask, which won't do the air filtering job he's wearing it for. His mate is wearing the correct mask for the job.
They sort of get immune to this condition, and they throw it away. They find that the smell doesn't aggravate them at all, and therefore they just accept that as their normal daily routine.
Yes, well, the Australian worker is very ingenious in all his attributes, and I once found someone wearing one of these, which enabled him to smoke at the same time as wearing his protective equipment. So I think he got a double dose of the toxic fumes of the cigarette and whatever that stuff is that he was breathing at the same time.
Young people entering the workforce today seem to be getting a better start. They can either receive industrial safety training on the job, at work, or at a technical college.
What should you be doing now? Well, you will operate this machine. Right. What about your hair? Hair now. Right. Your hat on. Okay?
Yeah.
Right. That's the idea. How are you going with the job, all right?
Yeah.
Good.
Good.
Paul, why here at Stanley do you find it necessary to take your new intake of apprentices and not put them on the job for training, but straight into a training annex?
Well, Frank, the important thing here is that the boys have only just left school, and we find it's important that they get good ground training in safety, and it's by working with the master trainer in our training annex that this can be done for them.
One important point about overhead welds. What would I be doing wrong if I put my head under the plate to get anything? Has anyone got any answer? Isn't it? Right, slag would fall on me. So one important point about doing overhead welds is not to go to get tools under the job. Always walk around. If you put your head under there, that slag 99% chance that slag will drop off and go down the back of your neck, which means skin grafts. We think it's very important to teach the guys while they're at a very young age as apprentices. When they go out into the workforce, they carry out these safe practices and they look after their own safety as well as others.
For a young man coming in here and to be told to put on a hairnet, that might be a bit difficult. There's an old word, he might be a sissy. How do they react to that?
Possibly so, Frank. Not really. They realise that it's a safe practice to wear hairnets and safety spectacles, and etc. And they build it into their character. They don't worry about it after a while when they really do realise that it's a safe practice.
Do the older tradesmen laugh at them a bit for their safety practices or not?
Yes, we get a bit of response back from young apprentices stating that they get ribbed at work, but all the apprentices that I've spoken to don't really care about it. They just take the ribbing and realise that they're doing the safe thing, and that the older tradesmen just don't care. Let the older tradesmen have accidents if they want to. Our boys aren't going to have accidents. That's the main thing.
Modern protective equipment is designed to very strict standards. If it's used for a purpose which is different to its designed one, it will be of no use or effect whatever. In fact, what is even more dangerous is it gives people a false sense of security in that situation. The onus is on management to supply the right type of equipment. But once it has been supplied, as well as being together with a proper program of training and implementation and maintenance, it really is then on the worker to wear that equipment properly.
Yes, it can take quite a long time to get the men to wear safety equipment. It's like many things, after a while and it becomes part of them, they feel very uncomfortable without it. And the approach we've taken has been a slow and gradual. We supply the equipment, we encourage you to wear it, we encourage you to wear it, we encourage you to wear it. And after a while, they do. And now they won't walk into the factory without putting it on.
People are given equipment, but unfortunately they're either not given proper explanation as to what the equipment is used for, as to how to best operate it, how to maintain it, and as a result it's just not used properly.
You know, we can go on passing the buck in this matter between management and unions and workers and back again. But in the long run, it's the bloke who gets hurt, who becomes a statistic, who is responsible. And at the end of the day, it's his family that wants him to go home in one piece.